Somebody get Officer Jenny on the phone. There's been a recent crime wave of illegal Pokemon across the regions. More specifically about illegal moves on Pokemon. I'm sure some of you here have used illegal movesets before. Maybe a Magikarp with Judgment, or a Pure Power Choice Banded Extreme Speed Slacking, for example. Either way, one would assume the trainers within the Pokemon games themselves wouldn't stoop to that level. Well, you'd be wrong, as it has happened a lot. From the originals to the newest installments, no game is safe from these crafty NPCs. Firstly, shout out to Kinsuki for commenting this.
Dude, Seal don't learn Aurora Beam at level 19.
For those who don't know, I redesigned the Pokemon Kanto gym leaders in Gen 1, and I admit it guys, I gave Aurora Beam to an underleveled Seal. There's so many cheating incidents, we won't be going over all of them, but we'll talk about the more interesting ones. Also, let's do a question of the day. Comment below a move you think a Pokemon should get, but cannot learn. For me, I'd love something like a Dragon Dance Arbok or Dunsparce. Now, you'd expect Gen 1 to be rife with illegal movesets, but I could honestly only find two. The first is in Pokemon Yellow, where Brock's Onix knows Bind at level 12, where it doesn't normally learn it until level 15. The only way for this to be legit is to be trading an Onix from Gen 2 back into Gen 1, as Onix learns Bind at level 10 there, so maybe this Brock is just a time traveler. The second Pokemon is actually from Lance's team, the Dragonite that knows Barrier. I can't believe I've never noticed this before. I've seen videos and played Red and Blue hundreds of times, but it's real.
Now I really want Dragonite to use Agility and not Barrier. Of course it goes for Barrier.
In Gen 1, the trainers Pokemon tend to have the 4 latest level up moves, which Dragonite has 3 out of 4 here, but replaced Dragon Rage with Barrier. It's honestly pretty puzzling as to why they did this. Maybe they meant to give it Reflect, which it can learn via TM, but I'm not too sure. Moving on to Gen 2, which only has 2 illegal mons just like Gen 1. And would you look at this? It's Lance again, but this time his Aerodactyl knows Rock Slide. Now, to be fair, Rock Slide totally makes sense on Aerodactyl. It can learn it from Gen 3 onwards. My guess is the devs just assumed it had learned Rock Slide and put it on their moveset. Well, turns out it couldn't. Lance is looking at some serious jail time. This is his second offense. The second illegal Pokemon really is a mild case. Its Price is Piloswine, which knows Fury Attack 2 levels lower than should be possible. Alright Price, we'll let you off with a mere 1,000 Poké-Dollar fine. Chump change for a gym leader. Moving on to Gen 3, we've got a few more troublemakers here, and by far the worst offender yet. Say hello to cool trainer Diane in Hoenn's Victory Road. She has a very weird team, Claydol and Lantern. That's not the weird part, but they both only know 2 moves each, when every other trainer around them has full movesets. That's also not the weird part, but it's still a bit weird. Claydol has Skill Swap and Earthquake, and the Lantern has Thunderbolt and Earthquake. What the heck is that? My guess as to why it has Earthquake is that the move data got messed up for her, and it gave Lantern the same move Claydol has for slot 2. Or a game dev just messed up and inputted an illegal move. Even if Earthquake's not that strong of a move on Lantern, I've got to say it's pretty terrifying coming across that in Victory Road when you're least expecting it. If anybody actually knows what happened here, I'd love to hear the explanation in the comments below. There's a few gym leaders that are bending the rules as well. We have Sydney's Shiftry that knows Extra Sensory at level 48, which is impossible to have before level 49. Yeah, 1 level off. Why not just level them up once so it'd all be above board? There's Winona's infamous Dragon Dancing Altaria. Despite being a pain to deal with, I never once considered that Winona was cheating. At level 33, Altaria shouldn't be able to learn Dragon Dance for another 7 levels. And lastly, there's Norman's Lanoon. That has Slash at level 29 when ordinarily that's not obtainable until level 41. This one is weird. You already have Facade and Headbutt. Did you really need to tack on a third 70 base power normal type move? They could have given it Pin Missile for at least a bit of type diversity while maintaining a legal moveset. Or Otisleaf for those pesky ghost types. In Gen 4 there's still a handful of hackers among us. We have Veteran Brandon with a Hippowdon knowing Dig in Pokemon Platinum. Something that couldn't be learned until Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Maybe he had just travelled from Johto. He is a veteran after all. Bertha's Rhyperior knows Rock Wrecker, but is 6 levels too low to know it legally. And there's also a few Pokemon in the Battle Hall that also have illegal moves. There's Totodile with Brine, Roselia with Sludge, and Anorith with Stone Edge. All moves you wouldn't think twice about, very sneaky. Lastly, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there's Ace Trainer Nyx Squirtle that knows Curse, which is probably because in the original games, Squirtle could know Curse legitimately, and he kept the same moveset in the remakes. In Gen 5 we've got 3 cases of illegal movesets here. School Kid and Sandy Cloak Wormadam, which knows Leaf Storm. A move that only the Plant Cloak variation can legally learn. There's Abel's Metagross with Ice Beam. This only lasted a few days before it was corrected to Ice Punch. This one actually got corrected as Abel was a VGC player, and the NPCs team was based off of the team they'd used in the 2012 Pokemon World Championships. He managed to snag 3rd place, but lost to a VGC noob Wolfie Glick. Who even is that guy, am I right? Lastly, there's N's Moltres. Not that N, this N. And this sick and twisted individual hacks in Moltres with Leer? What a bad lad. That'll give him such a huge advantage. Moltres could learn Leer in Gen 1 and in the Let's Go games, but for Gen 5?
Not scientifically possible!
For Gen 6 we can find several examples of illegal moves, strangely in the promotional material. Gardevoir uses Fairy Wind in the X and Y E3 trailer, and Lapras uses Scald in a random banner for the Summer 2013 World Hobby Fair. Whatever that is. So presumably they had these moves in development, but ultimately it was decided these Pokemon shouldn't be able to learn those moves. I can understand Lapras not being able to Scald, as it is part Ice type, but Fairy Wind on Gardevoir seems fairly inoffensive. The worst error though has to be the pre-release screenshots for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where they show a Mega Blaziken using Ice Punch. A mistake big enough to warrant the Japanese Pokemon site to post an apology and removing the images. Many threads were made confused on if Ice Punch was truly legal, with people still believing Blaziken learned it even after the game released. Would be very sick if it could learn that though. Lysander, oh how do you say his name, was cheating with an Iron Head and Outrage Gyarados. Although this soon became a completely above board moveset when the Poke Transporter released a few months later. I feel like this was intentional from the devs, knowing it'll be legal before too long. Moving on to Sun and Moon, and now we have some cheating going on upon the initial releases of the games, such as Shuckle in the Battle Royale Dome, that knows Stockpile in version 1.0, and it's updated to Double Team in version 1.1. And a Shell Smashing Kommo in the Battle Tree, which was updated to Draco Meteor. Shell Smash Kommo sounds absolutely terrifying. This Pokemon was already OU in Sun and Moon. Imagine giving it one of the most busted moves of all, with the mixed offensive base stats it has. Now you've got a real monster in your hands. Oh, and there's also Totem Wishy-Washy's Alomomola ally that has Water Gun, which is so inconsequential that it has gone unfixed by Game Freak to this day. Gen 8 up next, and I've got to say this is probably the most interesting generation for incorrect illegal movesets. Let's start with Drillbur. This little lad had 1-star raids where it would somehow use Hydro Pump. It was only available for part of the first day that the raids were available back in April 2020. After that, it was fixed, knowing Scratch instead. The saddest part is you're not allowed to trade or battle online with it until you forget the move. We'll never know how Hydro Pump Excadrill would have transformed the meta. Next up is an interesting mistake involving Pokemon Go. If you traded a Alolan Sandshrew, Vulpix Geodude or Grimer, or Galarian Meowth, Ponyta, Farfetch'd, or their evolutions from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home, they would use their Kanto Natives Level Up Learn set instead from the Let's Go games. For example, Alolan Ninetales could have Flamethrower or Will-O-Wisp, Galarian Rapidash could have Flare Blitz, or the worst of all, Alolan Golem could illegally no Sand Attack. This was only possible within a 5-day window from November 11th to the 16th in 2020. Again, Pokemon with these moves could not be traded or battled online until the moves got deleted. Over to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where some more interesting shenanigans are happening. First of all, Ace Trainer Megan's Delcatty as Feint Attack. Sounds fine, right? Delcatty usually gets the move, doesn't it? Well, it does, except for one small problem. Feint Attack got deleted from Gen 8 onwards. Rest in peace to all the moves that got deleted for some reason. I know a bunch of bad moves got cut out, but Feint Attack surprises me. Maybe it shouldn't, considering they even deleted Pursuit. A very useful move for Dark types to keep Ghost types at bay. And there's also Fantina's Banette that knows Snatch. These two unusable moves were replaced in an update to Covet and Payback respectively. Speaking of unusable moves, Pikachu used Return in one of the trailers for BDSP. Honestly, I'm not sure why they removed Return and Frustration. It really helped normal types out, and they do need a bit of a boost with their lack of super effective stab or resist beside Ghosts. Next up is Dawn's Mr. Mime. This guy knows Power Whip somehow. It's likely just a bit of a typo on the dev's end, and it was meant to be something like Power Swap. This mime is only encountered in the post-game by battling Dawn in Sand Gym Town, after entering the Hall of Fame at least 10 times, while having picked Chimchar as your starter. So yeah, pretty specific, and it seems that Ilka still haven't fixed this error. Honestly, probably never will at this point. And Lucas is also a bit cheeky. He has a Calm Mind Milotic for if the player chose Chimchar or Piplup. While Milotic cannot learn that move, it does seem far more believable than Power Whip Mr. Mime. There's also Psychic Corbin's Banette in a rematch that knows Shadow Force. Nothing unusual here, just Giratino's signature move on a random trainer. Gen 9 is here, Scarlet and Violet, here we come. The latest entries at the time of this video being released. To start off with, Professor Turo's Iron Valiant knows Spirit Break at level 67, when ordinarily it can't be learned until level 91. There's Iono's Electrode in her rematch, which knows Sucker Punch, not learnable in Scarlet and Violet, but can be taught via Move Tutor in Platinum or Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I guess she has that immense streamer money and travel to the other regions. Really though, Sucker Punch is pretty bad on Electrode, so I think she got scammed. Ice Rider Calyrex has Aromatherapy via level up, but the move is unusable in the game, similar to BDSP's Delcatty and Banette. Quite weird how Aromatherapy was removed in Gen 9, maybe it'll come back in the Indigo Disc DLC. The move was replaced with Psychic Terrain in version 1.2.0. Lastly, 2 Terra Raids have had Pokemon with illegal moves. A 5-star Haxorus with Harden! Ordinarily an egg move, it learned in previous generations, just not in Scarlet and Violet. And a 5-star female Indeedee raid with Trick Room. This is a move Indeedee has never been able to learn and is the only way to obtain an Indeedee with the move. Additionally, for the time being, this Pokemon is allowed to be used online or for VGC tournaments. Maybe this is just an alternative way for Game Freak to distribute a sort of event move to Pokemon. Interesting idea, to be honest, if that's true. While we've gone over a lot of troublemakers here, there's still plenty more. And I never even touched the spin-off games, like Pokemon Stadium with its Metronome Slowbro. Maybe that could be for another video. I'll be keeping one eye open on Game Freak, adding more illegal Pokemon in the future. For now though, I hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you later.